This week's exquisite irrigation and landscaping coach of the week is Tanner Foster of the third grade Wolverines. And Tanner is a new coach. In fact, he was, we brought him in kind of a last minute coach and asked if he'd be willing to coach. He doesn't have a son on the team. He's a younger guy. In fact, he's just engaged. Congratulations, Tanner. But I am blown away with the enthusiasm that Tanner has brought to his team. Tanner, every week on the sidelines, is all about pumping his kids up. He has come to me and just been so grateful at the opportunity, and he embodies everything that we want in a coach to get along with their kids, bring positive and reinforcement to them about what they're doing. And puts God first. And man, Tanner, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You've been such a great addition to our league. You are our coach of the week. And that position, that coach of the week, is sponsored by Exquisite. Exquisite Irrigation and Landscaping. It's a full service commercial and residential landscape, irrigation and lawn maintenance company serving all of DFW. They're currently taking on new commercial contracts and residential clients for the upcoming spring and summer season. You can visit them online at exquisitelawn.com.
And our player of the week, sponsored by the LC Sports and Rec, goes to none other than Charlie Hesser. Charlie is on the 4th through 6th grade girls Pirates team. And man, they're coached by Jesse Cantu and Mr. Jared Wellman. And to see the write-up that Jesse Cantu made on Charlie is just phenomenal. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here is what Jesse said. Charlie is the only post player on the team. Jesse drafted a bunch of guards, and so Charlie is the biggest one. And so Charlie has been tasked with, just guarding all the post players. And this is what Jesse said about Charlie. She epitomizes grit, toughness, and mental fortitude, as well as strength. In the past 4 games, she has not let her defender score at all. She's bought into what they're doing. She is a great workhorse. She does an excellent job. So, Charlie, good job. You are this week's player of the week. Okay, welcome to episode 34. This is the last week of our season.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a great season so far. I think every week has been a great week. And today we get to talk about a topic, Todd, that you are stoked about, and that is
culture.
Yes,
culture. Yeah, and I am. This is why I'm weird, because topics like this
you're not weird.
Make me happy. And this was born out of watching our teams as we gear up for the last week of the season, watching them practice, watching them play games, and you can see teams that are just thriving as we get to the end, and you see teams that are kind of waning as we get to the end. And I'm a huge leadership nerd. I'm a huge nerd about studying cultures and what makes functions go and what causes them to stall and things like that. And I think that's born out of, just I want to care about people and I want to see people thrive. And I look at our practices and I was telling you earlier, I watched a practice last night, last practice of the year.
Yep.
And this team, led by Coach Chase Johnson, they're in the championship, by the way. They play in a championship game this week. 4th grade boys
championship. They got the Cougars versus the Gators.
Yeah, and they are out there last night practicing, but they're playing games. Mm-hmm. And the kids absolutely loved it. They were going bonkers last night at the games they were playing. Now, there was some strategy that was talked about, but Chase did not spend the entire practice on how to defeat this player on this other team or anything. Yeah. He was just, the culture on that team, those kids seem to love each other. Yeah. They love their coach. It's just such a great culture.
Yeah.
And in contrast, there's been a couple practices where, half the kids maybe don't show up for the last game because they're out of it. The engagement and the involvement is not there.
We see that every season, by the way.
Yeah.
But towards the end of the season, you can tell teams that have a good culture, by whether or not their players come to the last one or two practices.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then I don't think it's, just our league. I think it's natural.
For sure.
I mean, you could look at all the way up to professional. You could look at an NFL team the last couple weeks of the season and see who's melded in and what that culture is about. So I thought we would start by simply defining what culture is. And for that, I go to my friend Merriam-Webster. And culture is defined as the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an organization.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of words. So I'll ask you, how do you identify a culture?
Yeah, I think the key word that popped out in me in that definition was the word shared. If something is shared, that means that there's a relationship there that's bought into, like similar to what you were talking about, Chase, and how, all of those guys have relationships. They enjoy being around each other, playing for each other. And then also if something is shared, then that means that it's bought into, like they're sharing a set of beliefs or they're sharing, a game plan, if you will.
Right. Yeah, it is. It encompasses the team aspect, right? Which is
not a set of individuals.
No.
But a team that's formed together.
And culture will kind of pave the way and determine your production level. If you, as a coach, simply walk out there, roll the ball on the floor, and tell your kids to have fun, what's the culture there? It's one of just, hey, do what you want. Y'all figure it out. I'm going to stand here on the sideline and clap. There's no growth that's involved. There's no accountability. There's no expectations.
Right.
It's just a team that goes out there and tries to have fun. But then when they get beat over and over and over again, and there's nobody stepping into that space and helping them grow, then it becomes a negative culture because kids start pointing fingers at each other. Parents start getting upset. It can be a very demoralizing thing. So that culture really paves the way for production. It allows, kind of like I said, it allows, if you get a new teammate into that culture, hey, that's not how we do things here. By the way, that is my favorite statement to make in a good culture. Because when someone comes in from the outside and they do something and you look at that and go, that's not right. My favorite thing is, hey, that's not how we do things here. Because the rest of the team takes pride in how we handle things, how we do things. We do them above the bar. We do things morally. We do things ethically. We do things that the way they're supposed to be done. And if somebody steps over that line, that culture has the ability, without a coach stepping in, to say, nope, not going to work here. Right. And so that's what culture allows. Culture, honestly, it's not just for the newcomers, but it also sets boundaries for the existing players or team members. And, it's not just teams, right? Like this applies to your family. This applies to your employment. As a family, absolutely families have culture.
Yeah.
What is the culture of your family, if you had to put it into words?
Yeah, the culture of my family, definitely is one in which we're working as a team, right? Like Dean really values, and I appreciate this about him. He values being at home, specifically for at least one meal a day, whether that's breakfast or most of the time it's dinner, if we can swing it, and just having dinner together. Because when we have dinner together, we know that that's when we're looking each other in the eye and we're talking about our days and what was ridiculous or what was funny or what happened. And then, there's a respect that bleeds into that you learn around the table.
Right.
I see that, more so from Dean's side of the family, more so than mine. And he's made that a priority in our family.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that for our family, the priority has been built around creating a safe place. Right. And now that we have children that are grown and have moved out of the house, and, we just have two living of the five, two living at home now. And it becomes harder and harder to have that culture of family. And so my wife has famously always said, I just want my kids home for Thanksgiving. I don't care how far out they go and how far they chase their dreams, because I want them to do that. But as long as Thanksgiving, they come back and they sit around the table. And for the most part, we've been able to do that.
Yeah.
We've created a space where they feel like they can come back home. And, I've been amazed at how much my kids will call us and tell us very difficult things that are going on in their life. And I feel like I owe that to my wife. I owe that to the culture that we have built in our house to say, this will always be home. This will always be a safe place that you can come to. So, as we were getting ready for this, I talked about how we have a text chat that my daughter has labeled, the family OG, because it doesn't include any boyfriends or girlfriends or anything like that. It's just the 7 of us, and that's a daily chat. And we utilize that to stick together. And so it helps foster that environment. Is our culture perfect? No, it's not. But you know what? We sure work hard at it.
Yeah. There's boundaries that you have, right? And those are the boundaries that you're trying to reach towards.
Exactly.
And expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When you were talking about culture and boundaries and expectations and things of that nature, immediately I think that, the most dominant one that sticks out in my mind as far as our coaches is Coach Easley and Coach D. I think that they've coached here for, was Cy on his team for the 2 years that they coached?
Yeah.
Okay. Then Cy's in 8th grade now.
Yeah. He's
right.
in 8th
So
grade.
at least for 4 or 5 years, I would say more.
Yeah.
Those 2 guys from the get-go, I've heard them at a weekly practice continue to lay down the boundaries and the expectations.
Yeah.
And from that, you talk about production. They're
They
pretty
win every year.
successful
Yeah.
coaches. Yeah.
And to go even further with that, just this year, you mentioned Cy's in 8th grade. He's playing basketball. Coach D came to his game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a truth behind that Cy sees, that it's not just saying, hey, I care about you, but it's following up and showing, hey, I care about you. Cy's been gone for 2 years from his team.
Yeah.
But he still follows up and goes to it. Like, who does that?
Right.
That's the kind of culture that he creates on his team.
Yeah. And, I'll talk about Noah Roach for a second. Noah also played for Coach D and Coach E. A lot of that also is the culture that their family has built. But the fact that Noah consistently comes back, and he is a 4th grade coach. He's been coaching for 2 years, coached 3rd last year, 4th this year. Yeah. And now for the past, I would say 4 weeks, he's come after his game, coaching his game, he's come and given back as a referee as well. And so there's something about, once a culture has been taught and bought into, it pays dividends on the back end, right?
That's the whole point.
Yeah, because that's you're giving back to a culture that's already been established.
Right. 100%. Yeah, they do such a great job with that on that team. And they're not the only ones, but they are a shining example of that. And I know people are like, man, they win all the time. I just want to beat them. But at the same time, every year, where do all the kids want to go play? They want to play on that team.
Yeah.
They want to play on that team because they want to be a part of what they have going on.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if they didn't win, if they lost, or came in second every year, kids would still want to play on that team because of the way that they operate and the culture that they've developed. Okay, so as culture, as we define it and we talk about what is good and what's bad, in preparation for today, I reached out to a huge mentor of mine, who I would consider the Yoda behind building culture, and someone that I've gone to forever. And I said, if you had to define what the most important ingredient is of developing and building a culture, what would that be?
Your logo and T-shirts.
No. I asked that question, and he immediately responded, one word: communication. If you cannot communicate with your people, you will never develop a culture.
Yeah.
And there are various reasons why we don't communicate, but people want to feel valued. And part of that value is feeling like they're in the know about what's going on. And it doesn't matter what my role is. If my role is cleaning up, in the men's locker room, and there are things going on at the top of the organization, and I don't know about it, that just creates this culture of, well, there's them and then there's me. And the team component of it just goes out the window. And you see this play out on the court all the time, because you'll have, little Johnny sits at the end of the bench in a high school basketball game, and he may or may not get in. If Johnny is, has a 69, 70 average, Johnny's going to get whatever he gets. Mm-hmm. Then you have the other guy who's a talented basketball player, 69, 70. That kid's getting a 70 somehow, right? Because we put all of our eggs in that basket, and little Johnny gets what he gets. And we see it play out time and time again. And that is a culture that says we value talent over the individual. And even in our youth leagues, right? I mean, we tend to, the competitive nature takes over, and our coaches want to win. And, we get messages like, hey, do we still have to play everybody?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so
it's still important from start to finish.
Yeah.
Consistency.
So it's all part of culture, but we have to communicate to them, this is why it's important. This is why your role is important. This is what you do. This is, what's going on in our organization, on our team. All of that has to be communicated all the way from the very top to the very bottom, so that everybody's on the same page.
Yep, agreed.
So along the lines of communication and it being paramount, I was thinking about, how does this play out? We have to start with the why, right? People have to know the why behind what they do. If we try to build a culture, I'll go back to my family, for example. If I just say, hey, we're going to chat every day.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. My kids are going to find something else that they want to do that's more fun than chatting with their mom and dad or their siblings, right? But if I explain to them, look, you guys are going to grow up. You're going to have kids of your own. You're going to have different interests. And before you know it, you look around and you haven't talked to your parents or your siblings in 6 months.
Yeah.
You lose that sense of belonging. You lose that sense of home. So the why is because, look, we love you. Yeah. We want to be your support system. We want to be a part of your lives. This is the why behind what we do. And we have to communicate that to them. Like, we can't just take for granted that they know that. So I talked about, you have two different employees. You've got employee number one who builds widgets. Mm-hmm. And what does he get for his widget building? He gets a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And so if you're the employee number one and you get a paycheck in return for widget building, what is your experience like every day?
I'm just working for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Your productivity at some point will probably slump a little bit, because what's the incentive, right? Compare that with employee number two, also builds widgets, right? But his employer comes in and says, let me explain the why behind why the widgets are important. Look at your community. Look at your neighbors. If we don't produce these widgets, they don't get the widgets to then turn around and use that they need day after day after day. So in order to show you how important this is, I'm going to make sure that you get those 2 days off every week. I'm going to make sure that you get breaks, because I want you to see how important it is to keep you fresh, because this is vital to our community. I'm also going to take you out in community engagements, and we're going to go look at the widgets that you made, and we're going to see how that has impacted the families of your community, of your neighborhood, and we're going to look at the why behind what you do. And so now it tells me, number one, what I do is important.
Yeah.
My role is vital to my own community. And number two, my employer cares about me so much that they want me to see how important it is. They want to make sure that I stay fresh. They want to compensate me, but they want me to see the whole picture, because now I'm important, not just in making widgets, but in how my community functions. And so how does that employee now produce? They come in day after day ready to go. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think about the coach that is running basketball drills, and if you're a kid, right, in our league, and you don't have a strong left hand, right, and the coach says, no, do the drill with your left hand, and that's all that they say. No, use your left hand, use your left hand, use your left hand, but yet they don't tell them the why behind why they're using their left hand.
Right.
and the circumstances that could come up to where they need to switch or how they could be guarded on their right side, you know.
Point. Yeah.
If they're not told the why behind why you need to work on your left hand and how that will make you stronger, to a kid, they're just getting through a drill to get through a practice.
Right. And you know, you use that example. I think about our referees. You know, talk about culture. Our referees actually affect our culture.
Yeah.
If we have referees that go out there and make calls and it's a turnover and they say red ball,
just blow the whistle.
Blow the whistle and move on. Those kids get so frustrated because they're like, what did I do? And you can see it on their face.
Yeah.
The referees never take the time to explain it.
Right.
Fortunately, we have referees in our league that do.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes such a huge difference because it creates growth in those players. It creates a positive impact that those kids are like, okay.
Yeah. And even from, going back to the culture, as a product of some of the way our referees, referee, namely Vernon, who has reffed every single second grade boys game this entire season. Not only does he continue to tell the kids, what they've done wrong, but I look at the coaches that are standing right beside me, and I specifically watch them and how Vernon is interacting with their kids. Right. And it's amazing how relaxed the coaches feel because they know, okay, Vernon's got it.
Right.
He's got it.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes the pressure off of the coach to direct. Now, is that normal? No, it's not normal at all. But I'm thankful that we have an atmosphere, a good culture, if you will, that provides positivity, and trust. I mean, Vernon is building trust not only with those kids, but their parents and also the coaches.
Exactly.
And the atmosphere in the gym is affected by the culture.
Yeah. And, even you talk about the referee, the coaches do that. The kids, they play off the coaches.
For sure.
When they see that their coach doesn't get overly animated, that they just take things in stride and they're like, hey, we can handle this, that permeates down the bench.
Yeah.
And the kids don't just get up in arms when a call doesn't go their way.
Yeah.
They recognize that they're, same manner. Coach has us under control.
Yeah.
We can trust him.
Yeah. I think about our coach of the week, Tanner Foster. They were down by 4 points. And in a third grade boys game, I mean, it's not a lot, but I mean, it could be, a whole 8 minutes of basketball before someone scores. And I remember when Tanner went up and they tied the game 10-10, I remember hearing from my left side, Tanner say, see, what I tell you, we've always been in this game, guys. We're good. Yeah. Just trust. Just work hard and trust.
Right.
And I mean, you could hear someone smile, and to hear what he said and I could see his facial expression, not by looking at him, but by his tone and how he said it. Yeah. It was greatness. Like Tanner has built a culture of working hard and having fun. And he does that by continuing to encourage his guys. Guys, we're not out of it. Like, let's go. Like, we've got this.
But the inverse of that is coaches or, insert where you will, but I flip out. Let's say my son gets a speeding ticket and calls me, Dad, I got a speeding ticket. I flip out on him, right? Is my son going to come tell me the next time he gets a ticket? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I know that I'm only five years into this parenting thing, but that's been one of the most important things I've had to learn is my response.
Yeah.
Like my response to, if Taya drops something and it breaks, if she, does something wrong and comes to me, that's been a major change in me in the past 5 years. Yeah. Like, don't respond just like that. Yeah. Don't flip out. It's okay. Like, because you're right. Like when she comes to me, and she's scared to tell me, she's scared to tell me because she's received a negative response before. Right. And, I wish that wasn't common, but I mean, I'm not a perfect parent.
No one is.
Continuing to learn.
No one is.
But it's that culture that you set by 100%. Not flipping out.
One of the things I talked about my mentor earlier, and it's Mike Brown. He's was in law enforcement for 50 years and was chief of police forever. And man, what an amazing man. He once taught me that you can have bad days, but you can't have bad days in front of them. And, what he was telling me was when the troops come to you as a leader, they need to see that you're the same no matter what. And so when you're a coach, because they take their cues from you. And if you flip out about the smallest things or even big things, they're going to expect that from you. And they're going to see that, okay, our culture is that's the expectations. When things don't go our way, we're going to get upset and we're going to point fingers and we're going to get mad that this happened, as opposed to taking things in stride and saying, okay, this happened. What are we going to do to correct it? And how do we make sure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
And we see coaches all the time that are great examples of this.
Yeah.
You know, they call a timeout. They bring over their team. They don't just get in their face and scream at them. They're like, okay, how do we correct what is happening here, and let's bounce back. And those are the championship teams that take things in stride and move forward.
Yep. For sure.
Okay, so going back to that communication piece, as a player or as an employee, what are the things that you would want communicated to you?
Well, I think that you said it before. I want to know the boundaries and the expectations.
Yes.
That's paramount.
Right.
Like if you task me with something to do and you already have an idea of how you want me to start something, give me those boundaries.
Right.
Give me the expectations.
Right.
Kind of similar to, when a professor has a syllabus that he sends out, right?
Yeah.
You know the expectations. Let's say that he wants you to write a paper that's MLA style or whatever. That's the boundary. Like that's how you want it to be written. And as a leader, sometimes I'm so task driven that sometimes even though the things that's what I want are expectations and boundaries, I fail to give them because I don't think the whole picture out. Like I don't think the whole thing out.
Right.
And so the things that I want, I'm not really good at giving sometimes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, communication can be so difficult because you have to really put yourself in the position of the, I don't want to say the lowest person in the on the totem pole, but the bottom level line type people, because they want to feel important. They want to feel valued. And we have a tendency in leadership positions like coaching or parenting or, even leadership positions within your job. We have a tendency to communicate effectively with the people that we deal with on a daily basis. And we forget the people down here, because what ends up happening is you have this divide that develops between, oh, well, they didn't feel like it was important enough for them to tell me that so-and-so is, being suspended, or, that so-and-so failed and he can't play in the next 9 weeks. I found that out because I showed up to practice and he wasn't here.
Yeah.
Like, we get in this rut of, oh, you know what? I forgot to send this information down. Well, when you build a culture, the culture is built around transparency, a positive culture. It's built around trust. And trust comes from that communication. And so, yeah, I want to know what the expectations are of my job. I also want to know what the results are. Like, how are we doing? How am I doing as in my role that you told me was so vital to what we're doing, but yet you're not coming to me and telling me how I'm performing? If it's that vital, then you should be telling me how I'm performing, right? If I'm a player on a team and I get zero feedback on my skills and how I've progressed over the course of the season, is it really that important? Because you spend a lot of time in practice with that player, right? And so it just, the culture becomes a have and have not. Yeah. And that's terrible. You have to be able to communicate all the way across the board with people. Yeah. And then, this is super critical, especially as parents. We've talked about this earlier today, but my kids, yes, we have this chat, right? Like we talked about this OG chat, right? Yeah. And it's so vital because if one of my kids, if something happens to them, if they win an award, or, my daughter recently got engaged, or, something happens to one of my kids, and I say, man, that is great. And I communicate with them and I tell them and I'm pouring love into them and I'm so proud of them, but I don't tell one of their siblings. Here's how that plays out. Now, the next time that I'm with that sibling, they're like, hey, you didn't tell me that Macy got engaged. Like, I found out on Facebook. And then Macy says, well, you know what? I never heard from Cole. He never even bothered to text me or call me and say congratulations. Well, Cole didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's all of this fallout, and people they tend to be like, oh, well, you know what? They must not like me, or they don't value me, or, you know, fill in the blank, all because of communication.
Yeah.
If Cole knew, he would have called Macy, right? If I would have told him, then he would have loved on her the way that he is, you know, wants to do.
Right.
And so because of that lack of communication, it creates all of these spider web cracks that results in a culture that can go really bad. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so communication obviously is important. Is this a bottom up or top down, if you had to say?
Yeah, it has to be from the top down.
Right. And so how do we accomplish that? Or how do you accomplish that?
I mean, there has to be an example that's set, right?
Yeah.
I mean, going back to, you know, boundaries and expectations, that has to be clearly communicated with what you just said. And, you know, there has to be a level of accountability. You know, I think of servant leadership, right? Like, you know, leadership happens, you know, by stepping in there and making sure that it's getting done. Or not stepping in there and making sure it's getting done, but modeling what you want done and setting the example.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We set the example at the top.
Yeah.
And, you know, I heard it this week that I would never ask someone to do something that I'm unwilling to do. Sometimes there's, you know, caveats to that because I can't physically perform things, or, you know, whatever the case is. But the point is that we're invested in our people.
Yeah.
And I want my people below me to see, man, he's willing to do whatever it takes. And not only that, but he comes and he has that eye contact with me.
Yeah.
It's not just emails. It's not just, you know, messages, but he's willing to get down here on my level and help me and do whatever and make me feel important. So I'm not going to buy in. I use the example of, you know, you don't sign up for a calculus class and go in there and expect to set the culture of the class.
Yeah.
The teacher does that.
Yeah.
The professor does that. They're the ones who determine at what speed we're going to go. They're going to determine the amount of homework that we're going to have. They're going to determine the amount of class participation. They are setting that culture, and it's up to me to either buy in or not based on what that teacher does.
I don't ever want to go back to calculus.
No.
No math. It's good.
Okay, so here's a fun thing. I'm gonna give you a specific company, and you tell me what that culture is.
Okay.
Okay. Chick-fil-A.
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Customer service.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. That's their brand. That's their culture.
Yeah.
The New York Yankees.
The Yankees. They have the pinstripe jerseys. Is that right? Pinstripe jerseys.
Yep.
So pretty sharp looking.
Yep. Classy.
I don't think that they put the names on the back of their jerseys. Is that
don't.
Right?
They're a team first concept.
Yeah. Does anybody else do that as far as MLB?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are teams that do that.
Okay.
But the Yankees are known for that.
What's that guy? Jeter. That's who I think of.
Yeah. Yeah. Classy guy.
He's always like clean shaven.
Right. Yeah. So the Yankees don't allow facial hair.
Yeah. Are you a Yankees fan?
Yeah, I like the Yankees.
Yeah.
You know why? You know, it's kind of like we talked earlier about Coach E and Coach D and how they create this dynasty because they win every year. The Yankees have done that forever.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of jealousy out there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to see the Yankees win again.
Yeah.
But the reality is, they don't put the name on the back of the shirts because the team's more important. Yeah, you're clean shaven. Yeah, we're classy as an organization, the way we handle ourselves, because they want to be known as that brand is a level above.
Yeah.
And they accomplish that. They create a great culture. Anytime anybody's ever traded there, they're like, man, I play for the Yankees. You know, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Southwest Airlines.
So I think I've only flown on Southwest a couple of times, but I've heard their customer service is good.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I definitely got that vibe for sure.
Yeah.
I think of their planes that are pretty cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
like an aspect of fun.
Right. They're a fun-loving.
Yeah.
You know, they give back to their customers as much as possible. They try to keep low fares. They're very customer friendly, customer based.
Yeah.
Okay, last one, IKEA.
I mean, pretty standard, like pretty simple, straightforward.
Yeah.
Make sure you read the directions before you put anything together. So I've been told.
Yeah.
I don't have experience in that.
Yeah. IKEA is their simplicity.
Yeah.
There are strip it all down. You can go in there, buy any piece of furniture, put it together in a couple hours, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing fancy about it.
Right.
It is just simple.
Yeah.
And that's what they're known for. They're people they flock to IKEA because it's just simple and I can do it.
Yep.
Right. And so these are just examples of cultures that work. Right. So, and by the way, if you go and you talk to employees of these companies, they will all, I mentioned the Yankees, everybody wants to play there, right?
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, it's like every teenager I know applies to work at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because they take care of their employees.
Yeah.
It's a good environment. It's a good culture. So let's talk about, there was a research study done in 2022 by the Pew Research team, and it said the top reasons that people leave their job. Okay, so we're talking about culture. So in with respect to culture, what would you say would be a reason, if you were to guess, why people leave their job?
Well, I would say probably going back to, your example of the widgets, right? Like they just go and they get a paycheck. They don't feel valued. They don't feel respected at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're hitting on all of them, basically. The number 2 reason is people feel disrespected at work. And that is a direct reflection of, does my leadership even care about me?
Yeah.
Do they even care about me as a person, or am I a number?
Right.
Right. That's the disrespect. The number 1 reason is no opportunity for advancement. I can't get better. I can't gain any extra responsibility. This is where I'm at. I'm never going to advance. And that is a direct reflection of, leadership going in and explaining to people their value and why they're important. And, and if there is opportunity for progress and growth, like, is that explained to the person? Hey, this is how you can go. From a team concept, this is that guy or girl on the team that maybe they have a little bit of talent, but no one tries to develop that talent. No one goes and says, hey, you can't dribble with your left hand. Let's work on that. Let's make you a really much improved player. So people end up dropping out and saying, I'm not good enough. Well, no one's stepping into that position and helping develop them. That's a culture thing. The other 2, flexibility hours and working too many hours, because we have these cultures where I've seen it time and time again, where you find someone who's really good at what they do and you give them all of the work because you can trust them, you can count on them, that it's going to be done right. And so we just heap work on them and we go to the whip, so to speak, over and over. And that results in burnout because the development side is not employed on the back end of that, And so I use that employee number 2 who, hey, take your days off, take your breaks. I've got to keep you fresh, but I also have to develop people around that person. Right. So those are reasons why people are leaving jobs and going other places. So if we look at it from a coaching standpoint, what do you tell coaches in order to prevent those kinds of things from happening?
Well, I think, from the collegiate level, I mean, when really any workout will tell you, if you want to perform your best on game day, then you have to have a light practice the day before, or a practice at all, maybe like a walkthrough or a run through or something.
Right.
So I think the same can be said, about leadership as well and culture.
Yeah. This is why I think culture is so important, because I think we could both recognize, okay, this is a really bad culture, right? This is a terrible culture. You go in and you clean house and you say the leadership is not taking care of its people. The people are leaving left and right. Yeah. What's the first thing that new management or new coaches or, the new leadership does when they come into a situation like that?
Well, they clean house is what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They completely change the culture. That's the first thing they do, because they know they can't teach X's and O's.
Yeah.
It's not going to matter if the attitudes stay the same.
Do you think the Luka trade has something to do with that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. In what way?
Yeah, I've heard and read some that he doesn't take care of his body like he's supposed to.
Yeah.
As far as nutrition, I saw this video where, the owner took a beer out of his hand when he won a game.
Yeah.
So it's the small stuff like that maybe the disrespect, I think. What have you read?
Same things.
Yeah.
Same things. And, so like I think about it when you ask that question, I hate that Luka is no longer a Maverick, right? And we keep blaming, the general manager for making the trade and all that kind of stuff. And you can have that debate and that argument. But let me ask you a question that I think few people are asking. What are the people on the team saying today?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
And you won't.
Yeah.
You won't. No one's going to say anything negative about Luka. No one's going to say anything negative about a friend.
Yeah.
Right? Were there issues? I don't know. I wasn't there. But if you believe what you read, then yeah, there were. But I can tell you what the people in that room are saying. We can still win.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can still win.
Yeah.
We got a piece back in the trade that is a legit star, even though he's injured. Maybe they traded away the face of the franchise, but I guarantee you the people in that room are still believing in themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a culture thing. So what makes a strong culture? What makes a culture strong? We talked about the communication piece, but I just have some bullet points here to go over. So signs of a strong culture. Everyone on the team has a strong sense of belonging and feels valued.
Back to relationship.
That was going to be my question. How do you accomplish that? That's relationship. The team is engaged in challenging work. How do you make that happen?
Yeah, you give them something they're not good at. So that means so that they grow.
For development.
Yeah, for sure. What we've been saying, for the past 2 or 3 podcasts, adversity develops growth.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The team understands how their role impacts positive performance. And you see this play out because, if I'm just doing my job every day, but I don't know how it really applies to the team aspect of it, then you use the word silo. Yeah. Now I'm just in my silo and I'm just doing my job and I don't know how it affects anybody else. Everyone on the team takes responsibility for mistakes and is eager to learn from them. We have to have that, within a family, if you mess up, I tell my kids all the time, you have my last name. If you mess up, it affects me. It affects the way people view me.
Yeah.
When I was in policing, if I mess up, it's not just the people on my department that it affects because the headline in the newspaper is former police officer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that affects everybody.
Right.
So you have to be willing to raise your hand and say, I messed up. How can I get better at this? Right. The team takes time to review existing processes critically. Do we do that? Coaches every week after a game,
they watch film.
And they review, is what we're doing working? What do we need to change? Yeah. Right. And I think that's important for, even like I said, a family to do. Is what we're doing working?
Yeah.
Especially in marriage.
Right.
I was talking to one of our coaches last night. I said, she has to miss the last game. I said, why are you missing the last game? And she said, we're going to a marriage conference. And she said, it's our way every year of getting back in alignment.
Yeah.
And she said, that is so important because they're reviewing their processes and making sure that what they're doing
works. And that's a priority.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So, awesome. Creating that culture. Everyone on the team is eager to praise others. If you are on a team that everyone wants the spotlight, everyone wants to be the one that gets the ball all the time, that
not a team.
That's not. And it's going to create a terrible culture because people are going to point fingers.
Oh, yeah.
We have to be willing to point to other people and say they're doing a great job. And by the way, as a coach, if you're highlighting the same person over and over and over again, eventually that person is going to be an outcast. You're creating a culture in which everybody else on the team is jealous and says, I don't want to be around them.
For sure.
I love that we do Coach of the Week every week, and it's always somebody different. And we always pick a different player of the week. I love that. Yeah. And then finally, each person on the team feels supported with clear avenues of guidance and mentorship. We've all seen those teams or organizations where people, hey, this is your job. This is why it's important. Go do it every day. Yeah. But we don't provide any kind of mentorship or development for them to get better and be better. We just leave them on an island. Right? Yeah. Okay, so to finish up, last, signs of a weak culture. So these are signs that maybe your culture needs some help, right? The team's afraid to make decisions on their own.
Yeah. They're just paralysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the micromanaging coach that says you're going to do it my way. If you don't do it, like there's no room for them to use their talents and their abilities.
And they're not thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Yeah. And so it stunts everything.
Yes.
I mean, not just their basketball season, but I mean, it also stunts their self-esteem, you know, in general.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't affect just basketball.
Right. And they get frustrated with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The team is quick to come up with why something doesn't work. So this is the excuse, you know, this didn't work because of this or that. Team members are quick to point fingers at each other or leadership. I experienced this on a team one time when, you know, you get up early on a team by a couple touchdowns, and all of a sudden, all they're doing is arguing with each other. They have completely forgotten their game plan because they're too busy blaming each other. And then it's a cakewalk the rest of the way. Team members are feel like they're on an island. We talked about that a little bit already, where, you know, hey, there's no outlet for me.
Right.
I'm an employee. I don't have anybody to talk to. No one's trying to develop me. Yeah. It's just come to work and collect your check. Everyone has their own way of doing things and is reluctant to create shared processes. Talk about that, because you said something about that earlier about the silos and what that can create.
Yeah, everyone has their own way of doing things and is reluctant to create a shared process. I think that, you know, for me, I enjoy autonomy and being able to do. And when I have that autonomy, that means that I feel like I'm being trusted. But if that continues to where, you know, I'm only walking with me, then there's a silo that develops.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's easy to do, because I'll use you as an example. Like as a very talented person, pretty much, you know, everything that you do, I mean, you're going to be modest, but everything that you do, you're very talented. You have the ability to do a lot of things.
You could use talent or experience. I'm not really sure.
Either way.
You could call it experience.
Either way.
I don't know that talent is a thing.
But I'm going to use the word talent. And because of that, you're capable of doing a lot of things. Imagine from a discipleship or a mentorship standpoint, what you have to offer to teach other people. And so, you know, if you have that star player on your team, if you're not tapping into that, if you're just allowing them to do everything all the time and they're not tapping into other areas of the team, then you're not growing as a team like you could, you know? And so, and I think you do this because you meet with people and you help disciple people and you do that kind of thing. But if you have talent on your team, disperse that talent.
Yeah.
You know, I once, I saw a quote from Gandhi, that said, you know, leadership is not about how many followers you have. It's about how many leaders you create.
Yeah.
And you can't create other leaders when you're focused on your own, you know, path, so to speak. So a couple more. Few people see a long-term future for themselves on the team and would jump if another opportunity comes along.
Yeah, we see that constantly.
Yeah, this is a bad culture. I don't want to be a part of it. Could this culture be better? I don't know, but I'm willing to take that chance.
Yeah, we'll try it.
Yeah, right. And then finally, team members believe leadership is exploiting them, and leadership believes team members are overly entitled.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's when you get to the point where management, there's no trust.
Yeah.
Management doesn't trust the people that are working for them, and the people working for them doesn't trust management. Yeah. And that is a direct result of communication.
Right.
And when you get to that point, the culture is doomed, and you know you have to take drastic steps, right? So, I make the point: you get the culture that you deserve, right? And so, if you're a coach in our league and you just roll the ball out there and you clap for the kids and say, good job, good shot, but you don't give them any expectations. You don't give them any kind of, coaching about, what they're doing, then eventually that culture will just fall because initially those kids are going to have a great time. They're out there having fun with their friends, but now they're getting beat every week.
Right.
Now they're not scoring any baskets because the other teams have learned functions and processes and they haven't.
Yep.
And so if you don't create a culture, that is your culture.
That's your culture.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what
you
you'll
get what you deserve.
Yep. Yeah.
So
and good people flock to good cultures.
good people flock to good cultures. We talked about the Yankees and people wanting to play there. You know, if I have the opportunity to go work for Southwest Airlines or, you know, I won't mention any other airlines, but a different airline that, you know, they may or may not treat their employees well, I'll take less pay to go work somewhere where it's fun, where they value me and they take care of me. And, you know, I think about, you know, my son went to work for American Airlines and they have all these cool little perks and benefits for their employees that they don't really advertise. And it's like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Like I would love to work at a place where they value their employees so much that they give them these extra trips or, you know, whatever it is. Because I think people realize that if you want to draw people in, you have to value them. They got to feel important. When I worked, I went from the Euless Police Department to the Bedford Police Department. And when I got there, it was, hey, our culture's terrible. We need to turn it around.
Right.
And so we got new uniforms. And we remodeled the building. And we put a face on it that says, that was the old, this is the new. And no, we can't afford to pay you as much as South Lake Police Department or, you know, some of these police departments. So, yeah, you can go work there. But you know what? When you come work here, these are the things that we're going to do where we're going to have fun and we're going to enjoy each other and love on each other and we're going to have all this. And, you know, people started realizing that, hey, I just want to come to work here. Like the paycheck isn't as big a deal. And
that's good.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yeah.
And I'm also thankful that we have some coaches that do a great job with culture.
100%.
So,
yeah.
As well as, you know, some referees and, you know, there's been some key volunteers too that we couldn't do this without. So,
yeah, for sure.
Man, thanks so much. Well, thanks for listening. This is episode 34 on culture. If you need good leadership tips, this guy right here.
I don't know about that.
He's it. So thank you, Todd.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Man, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed hearing us ramble about youth sports or other strangely interesting sports topics related to families, please go and like and subscribe to the show so that you can get regular updates when a new podcast is released. We'd also love to connect with you. Head on over to our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're under LC Sports and Recreation.
And if you're new to our podcast, go check out some of our previous episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There's some good stuff on there. And pay attention because these come out pretty quickly, weekly, as a matter of fact. And you're going to learn a lot about what we have to say with regards to our league and how to win with the home team.